These are becoming Jesus level technologies. We are about to have a life of abundance.
We are literally running on healthcare and AI at the moment.
He won't just be a hyperscaler, he'll be the hyperscaler.
The intersection between healthcare and AI will be a $38 trillion industry.
How do you feel about soon being able to live forever? What excites you the most about the future of health and AI?
Personally, I think it is just the ability for regular individuals, lower middle income individuals, being able to access these technologies without paying an arm and a leg for them and hopefully live longer. I think that's the end goal and catch chronic diseases before or at a point when they're treatable.
Did you see, I think it was 2 weeks ago or so, when Elon Musk was being interviewed about Neuralink and how they're able to do some crazy stuff, helping the blind see when they, not even just people who lost their sight, but people who have never seen, or
Yeah,
people helping people be able to walk again. And
yeah.
and so he said that these are becoming Jesus level technologies. And so the
Mhm.
internet went crazy because he was comparing himself to Jesus. What do you make of that?
I think that people are going to be afraid of new technologies and not just afraid, but skeptical. And that's just the advancement. That's how the advancement of technology works. People are going to try and equate people who try to do all these advanced things as this is outside of healthcare, but scaling data centers and compute inference, people are going to fight back against these things. And so when someone compares themselves to Jesus, it's going to scare them a bit. People are skeptical, but that's just the reality of technological progress.
We are about to have a life of abundance
Hmm.
where we're like on the verge within 10 years of where aging is seen as a disease and can be reversed instead of a natural course of death.
I don't think it'll only even be just aging, just labor in general with advancements in robotics technology, optimists. These are
Yeah.
going to bring just massive changes to our economies. We're a service-based economy, and this is really going to transform how, at least in the US specifically, most people work and live.
Yeah. So if your family is medical, a bunch of doctors,
Yes.
you also have a background because of what you
Yes.
studied.
Yes.
What does this mean with what's coming in the future? What does this mean for you? And what are you going to do about that?
I've always loved healthcare. I think it's something I wanted to go into. Even as a child, I wanted to become a doctor. And then I got more interested in the intersection between business and health. I think it's just one of my stronger suites. And so growing up in a family in medicine really gave me the insights on where to focus on in the future and just also gave me that background. I studied in college both biochemistry and economics. So that's currently why I work at a healthcare company at the moment too.
Yeah.
And so that's somewhere I want to take my career later on is working
Yeah.
myself somewhere, starting and creating something in the healthcare sphere because it will become one of the most valuable markets, how we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
It's where the future is going.
Biochem and economics, you've got to have a 150 IQ to do that.
Yeah,
What did you learn from that?
just my biochemistry degree is more with a focus on nutritional biochemistry. There's not many programs in the US that do it really. My college is the only non-Ivy League that provided it, so it was something I kind of wanted to delve into because that was really interesting. Yeah, and then economics, I love economics. I'm an economics nerd. I read papers for fun. That's what I do for fun. So being able to look at where the healthcare industry is going is really interesting. And we're at a time where both pharmacy and medical costs are increasing exponentially, chronic diseases are increasing exponentially, and healthcare spend in general is getting out of control. At the moment, the only thing really growing the US economy is both healthcare expense and data center construction. The other industries are shrinking, but so we are literally running on healthcare and AI at the moment.
It's wild. And hopefully, yeah, more optimists being built in
Mhm.
the US and chips
Yes.
being built here before they're built in space.
And I actually, after we discussed the launch of data centers in space, I went and watched the interview with Elon Musk. And because at first I was a bit skeptical because I come from a science background and I was thinking of it from a physics aspect is servicing it in space is expensive. Like, how are we going to get it up there? I know solar is way more abundant in space, and so you probably won't need batteries, so that'll decrease the cost. One thing I didn't know was that one of the largest costs for solar is actually because on Earth there's so many elements that can destroy the panels in the cell, so you don't really
Yeah.
have that up in space, so that decreases the cost. And then I was looking at physics, so it's really interesting, and I actually now agree with Elon that I think that's the future. And off tangent here, but it was something really interesting, so I kind of looked into it. But
I think it all because that
Mhm.
impacts health to be able to scan the data centers in space. That last week he shared his plans on what these satellites look like, and he said it's even easier than the Starlink satellites they already have
Yeah, and
to get
that's
those
and
up.
in the interview, he was hoping that they were going to start doing 30,000 Starship launches, which will be a huge
One per
number.
hour.
Yeah, one per hour, which is crazy. And I think that's where XAI is really trying to position themselves is the future, I think, is in who holds the compute
Yeah,
and can put the most inference for whatever these AI companies. Because at the end of the day, the Chinese models are almost as good as the US frontier
yeah,
models. And so it
yeah.
just comes down who has the better inference.
He said before SpaceX went public that there's a reason why the models are playing a leapfrog game. Like, because there's
Yeah.
Mythos comes out 5.0. He says it's because they are all basically the same.
Yeah.
And the Chinese models, open weight models, the distilled models they're just a few months
Mhm.
behind. So there's no advantage that OpenAI has. There's no advantage that Claude or whatever might have. So to your point, like whoever holds the compute, that's more important than the model or whatnot. And so from a first principle standpoint, it doesn't even matter what the model is because if he's selling compute to the other players, he owns the game.
Yeah.
He can have the crappiest model and brute force his way to
Mhm.
a win in the short term.
And even strategically for the US, you want to keep projecting US homogeny. And so getting our both our allies and the rest of the world reliant on US compute will solidify our lead and establish the
Yeah.
dominance of US AI companies. Because I don't know if you saw yesterday, but Secretary Lutnick was talking about how they believe that China got access to some of ASML's technologies. And this was something that Elon discussed
Yeah.
before. It's like China is really not that far behind when it comes to fab manufacturing. And so they're
Yeah.
probably 30 months out, 36 months out. And so the US needs to aggressively scale all of our compute kind of because we are in a sense in a cold war at the moment, fighting
Yeah.
for who can reach the singularity first with large language models. Yeah.
That is crazy. I am so excited because Holly Market says that whatever, 57% chance that Tesla will be absorbed into SpaceX. So
Hmm.
I think I'm excited to be a SpaceX shareholder.
Yeah. You're one of the original investors in Tesla, right? Or you invested very early
Yeah,
on
yeah,
as
I
well.
invested early in Tesla, which has
Awesome.
been
Yeah.
very good. Obviously, whenever all of us are like, dang it, I wish I put more in that, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I think SpaceX, I think technically on paper right now is the fifth most valuable company in the world. And as Optimus production begins, and if Terafab becomes a thing, could become number one. Really exciting stuff happening in the tech world. This is probably the most interesting year of my life. So many new things happening and progress is exponential. And as like you said, it's a cycle with all these models. Fable came out and that was like the neuter version of Mythos. And
yeah,
I'm sure that both OpenAI has something similar, Gemini or Google hopefully as well. And these advancements. I'm excited to see where it all takes us in a year. It's going to be really crazy
yeah.
to see how it
My
revolution.
prediction, right? So Anthropic is the cool kid right now, but
Yeah.
I think by the end of the year, Google will be the strongest model because Google's always intentionally waiting until they release their thing. So
Mhm.
Google will have the best AI by the end of the year because they have the informational advantage. They
Mhm.
have the
Yes. Yeah.
TPUs and they know how to organize information. But I think when the data centers in space spin up, I think in 24 to 36 months, Elon will be the winner. XA will be the winner in that.
Yeah. I think Google has a slight advantage just because they have the vertical stack and then the horizontal integration between all their consumer products. I
Yeah.
mean, controlling the TPOs is really good for them, but they still need way more compute. And I think that's the goal of
Yeah.
XAI. I know Elon is trying to put up Colossus 3 and 4 as fast as possible. Colossus
Yeah.
1 is rented out currently to Google for what, $1 billion a month. And I'm
Yeah.
sure those
Yeah.
numbers will grow in the next 12 to 24 months.
He won't just be a hyperscaler, he'll be the hyperscaler.
Yeah. It'll be so, yeah,
One
no.
terawatt of compute per year.
That yeah, that's what he was saying in the interview. So I'm excited to see it happen. These are crazy things. I just hope that this launching the data centers in space can happen as fast as possible because I think in the US right now, there's a large amount of misinformation or disinformation,
Yeah.
and it's a very bipartisan issue to be against data center spending. People are
Yeah.
pushing back on everything that they can in regards to artificial intelligence. People are scared, and rightfully, most people don't really understand how the technology works and what it'll bring for humanity. But
Yeah.
they'll reap the benefits later on, anyways.
I was at a AI conference yesterday and everyone was hating on the data centers and one person asked me, "What do you think about the water consumption and the environment?" And oh no.
I
The
mean,
almond farms California's almond farms consume 100 times more water than the data centers.
1 acre of farmland
Yeah.
consumes, I think, as much as 10 to 20 data centers do. And that's if you're not running on a closed loop system.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can understand maybe utility costs. That's like the only valid claim that they have. But at the end of the day, that's not really the problem of the AI companies. You should be going to your local utility companies and complaining that US energy infrastructure is shit, and pardon my language, but it's really what it's
Ha.
at. And so I don't know, people should be talking about increasing energy output. And
Yeah.
it's, again, not a problem with data centers, but again, misinformation and people are just uneducated.
There's so many things we can talk about, and I feel like everything bleeds into each other. The Moonshots podcast, where
Yeah.
bio, and that's the whole point of the singularity. And what I would love to do, Alex, is interview you for a few minutes here and there
Okay.
on what's going on in your mind and how do you view this, because it seems like it's a private trillionaires game club,
Mhm.
and there's not many young adults that are really talking about it that
Mhm.
understand that.
Mhm.
And I think you should be a voice for
I mean,
the
yeah.
for
So,
that.
so I would love to. The intersection between healthcare and AI will be a $38 trillion industry. And
But it's all old people talking about that, right? Because they're the ones
yeah,
who care the most.
that's true. And I think that eventually people slowly, as these technologies start coming out, people will begin to understand, or like what happened with Midjourney's example, or
Yeah,
with Midjourney's new development yesterday.
yeah,
You had radiologists like, no, these are lies, like people in denial, because this is going to bring to people access to medical technology that they just never could afford before. MRIs are not cheap, 40 to 50,000 to run an MRI machine.
yeah,
And at the same time, a lot of these technologies will actually be safer than conventional methods.
yeah.
So Midjourney's new MRI scanner uses no radiation. There's no magnets in it. So,
That's
I mean,
crazy.
yeah, like I said, all these revelations will really transform healthcare. And so, yeah, I think young people need to get ready for that. And I think the people, or especially my generation, who understands that, will gain the edge. If you can start a business that intersects healthcare and AI, like, you will be set, especially if you work hard and it becomes successful.
That's where you're heading to.
Yeah, and that's my goal. Like I said, I come from a medical background, and it's just something I'm very passionate about.
Don't forget about me along the way.
Oh, don't worry, Dennis. I won't.
What are you going to do? How do you feel about soon being able to, in a few years, live forever?
Who doesn't want to live forever? It's kind of, it's not really, it's something that I can't really grasp. I understand that it's going to happen, and it's just, I think it'll be crazy times. It'll be crazy times.
What will you do with your time?
So me personally, we live in the information age. Time is finite, and if you can convert the most finite resource, the most valuable resource that humans have, and give it to them in infinite abundance, like, you will transform humanity. So I don't know, that's what I'm really excited for. And if with all this time, I'll probably just read and learn as much as I can, because it's what I love to do.
Amen. It'll be like Player of Games, the whole culture series that Elon Musk talks about on what is a postmodern, post-monetary society looks like.
Oh, so I actually haven't really read it much into his.
Quotes it all the time. Anytime Elon mentions something many times, it's something that it's worth looking at.
Okay, yeah, I'll take a look. Do you want to give me a quick little deep dive, or?
So
Uh,
in a world where there's no need to work anymore because
mhm.
the machines produce everything and there's UHI, universal high income, then you have societies that some basically what happens is everything becomes a big video game because
Yeah.
people can hang out with each other and they still play games, even though computers can beat you at chess, even though cars can drive faster than whatever. We still have the Tour de France or whatever it might be, right?
Mhm.
And so there's reputation as the ultimate currency
Mhm.
because people still want to connect with each other, even though there's AI assisted and AI augmented and all these different beings that are like half human and half AI and whatnot. But how does an economic and cultural ecosystem that's multiplanetary operate? And how do conflicts resolve themselves? And this Ian Banks wrote this whole series of books that covers this. And it's just fascinating because it helps us understand science fiction is like when it's so far away, it's not economically viable.
Mhm.
Entrepreneurship is things that are science fiction is like entrepreneurs, but they're like too early by another decade.
Mhm.
So if you read the right science fiction, it's more science than fiction. It helps you reason through issues. We could sublingually communicate with each other. How do we do
Mhm.
that? And how do we spend our time? And you should start with player of games in that
Player
series.
thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then once you do that, you'll be hooked, and then we'll have lots of discussions about what this
Oh,
means.
no, I would love
And
to.
you'll see things before they happen because these situations have already been described, like Snow Crash by Neil Stevenson, which is talking
Mhm.
about AI and what happens when the virus gets out. And when the private sector has more control than the government, when the controlling launch capacity and technology and whatnot, and controlling money, and now the government's going to have to try to take ownership of these companies to
Yeah.
then be able to enable UHI, which is like forever COVID payments.
Yeah. This is actually something I actually predicted years ago was that
Yeah,
when we reach large scale labor market destruction through automation or robotic automation,
yeah,
we'll actually shift more away from capitalistic markets to maybe socialistic or communistic markets, just because that's the only way that socialism and communism is possible is because everybody's wealth will be equal. Like
yeah,
everybody will be able to achieve anything that they want because there's infinite abundance of materials because you'll have robots doing all the work for you.
exactly.
You won't have to participate in the labor market. And
Yeah.
it'll be really interesting. Now, I don't know how markets will shift, how systems will shift. That's been my prediction.
You have an economics background.
Dennis, I love having these conversations with you, man. I don't really get to do these. I don't get to have these conversations as often. There's
Yeah.
very few people I can have them with, and they don't live here in Cleveland, so it's very rare that I get to
Okay.
have
It's an
them.
honor.
Great. Yeah.
I learned so much.
Thank you.